of hubbub around one of the filming locations for the Harry Potter series, and it almost became a church versus pagans situation. So for the first movie, they wanted to use the Canterbury Cathedral for some of the films, but the Dean of Canterbury was like, no, can't do it because that's pagan imagery and you can't do that inside a Christian church, you witches. So then they needed to find another filming place, and the Gloucestershire, I don't know if that's right, so England fans, you know, come attack me and tell me how it's supposed to be. But the Dean of Gloucestershire was like, hey, you can come film in our cathedral. And he actually turned out to be a huge Harry Potter stan, and his last name was Bury, and that's just like fun. He was a Bury big fan. There was a huge media outcry, like Gloucestershire Sauce was hosting it, and there were like a bunch of bins of people, newspapers, and letters being thrown at me like, you can't do this, it's pagan, it's bad. And they're like, we're gonna block the media and we're gonna not allow you come in. And then the day of, there was only one protester who showed up. To film the restricted section scene, they actually went to a restricted area in the Oxford Library. They had a pretty hard rule about no flames there, which makes sense because, you know, paper's pretty burnable. But, you know, in the movie, they hold their little lanterns so that they're magical and old-timey and wizardy. Which means they were the first ones to break that rule in literal hundreds of years. That they know of. We don't know if there were some sneaky students in there being pyromaniacs. This one hurt my soul. Did you know that apparently the movies were supposed to be computer animated originally, and they were going to combine a bunch of the movies all together in one film because they were worried about the aging of the actors? I would have been so mad. We complain about having only 8 movies when we want, you know, each movie to be 20 hours to have every detail. Can you imagine they combined them into multiple ones and had it on a freaking computer? No, thank you. By the time this movie came out, Richard Harris had been an actor for over 40 years, and he said he had never been on a cast as close as this one. Even though everyone talks about how he's a great wizard, he never cast a spell in the first movie. Just you wait, he's going to make it up with a whole bunch of Expelliarmuses. In this first movie, Chris Columbus had real food at the welcoming feast, but hours filming under the hot stage lights eventually gave it a very unpleasant odor, especially the meat. The meat was too hot. Sorry. Did you know that there were actors who wanted roles in the Harry Potter series and even offered to do it without pay? Rosie O'Donnell wanted to play Molly Weasley, and Robin Williams wanted to play Hagrid, but I guess even he couldn't make that wish come true. Get it, because he was the genie. J.K. Rowling denied it because she wanted an all-British cast. Originally, the floating candles were real. They were in a candle-shaped holder, but made of burning wicks and oil. And eventually, the oil, you know, because it gets hot, snapped and broke one of the wires and fell to the ground. Fortunately, no one was hurt, but then they're like, you know what, let's make these CGI. That's a pretty hot idea. You know how McGonagall has the ability to turn into a little purr? Well, the tabby cat who played her ran away during filming and was found 2 days later. Free as the wind, just like McGonagall. We 10 points to the tabby cat. What was that? In the trophy case at Hogwarts, there's a trophy for Tom M. Riddle. Marvolo, for those of you who need to know. And it's for service to the school, you know, when he betrayed Hagrid. I love that it's still there, like, oh, you know, he only caused 1 wizarding war, let's wait to see if he causes 2. But to be honest, it's probably still there to this day. Professor Quirrell's classroom was filmed on location, and that cauldron was real and has been there for over 500 years and was used for Queen Elizabeth's cooking. Like the OG Queen Elizabeth with the red hair, not the one the crown is based on. I guess it's the second most famous character cauldron in the movie. The owls used in the movie were shipped in from Massachusetts. They were going to use, you know, ones from Britain, but they needed them to all have Boston accents. I need my car keys. Hoot hoot. So despite J.K. Rowling picking Alan Rickman herself to play Snape, another top contender was Tim Roth, who dropped out of contention in order to film Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes. Which I'm glad. How dare they consider anyone other than Potion's daddy for the role. Speaking of other contenders, Hattie Jones was one of the final 2 girls, including Emma Watson, to go for the role of Hermione. If you recognize her, she was actually Madeline. Bruce Springsteen actually wrote an original song for the first movie, but it wasn't included in the final cut because it was not really matching with the final cut of the movie. But it was released in 2017, so you better believe I'm going to go review that on my YouTube because this is brand new information. What the heck? In the language of flowers, petunia represents anger and resentment. Pretty spot on. For what she was. Freak.